My God, what's happening here? James Carter, a Silicon Valley tech millionaire, pushed open the door of his Palo Alto mansion, craving a quiet evening after an early-ending conference. But the scene in the living room froze him in place. Ethan, his 5-year-old son with frail legs due to cerebral palsy, was leaning on a wooden cane, trying to wipe dust off a glass coffee table. James nearly shouted at the unexpected sight. But wait, something wasn't right, not like usual. Beside him, Mia, the 27-year-old housekeeper, knelt, wiping the floor, smiling gently. "Auntie Mia, am I doing okay?" Ethan asked, his voice proud. James felt a pang in his heart, realizing he'd been distant from his son for too long. Who was Mia to make Ethan shine like this? Could this moment awaken an invisible father? Back to the main story. Today, the conference ended earlier than usual. James Carter, a 38-year-old tech millionaire, stepped into the house, his polished leather shoes clicking on the walnut floor. He'd just returned from a San Francisco conference, earlier than usual, longing for a moment of peace after days drowned in meetings and million-dollar deals. Typically, he only returned after 10 at night, when the $12 million mansion was cloaked in silence, his wife and son already asleep. But today, at 6 in the evening, the house buzzed with life, as if waiting for him to discover something. James paused at the threshold. His leather briefcase slipped from his hand, hitting the floor with a dry thud. Before him was a scene that stopped his heart. Ethan, his 5-year-old son with frail legs from congenital cerebral palsy, stood unsteadily in the living room. His small hands gripped a green-painted wooden cane. His messy brown hair swayed as he tried to wipe dust off the glass coffee table with a white cloth. His legs trembled, but Ethan's green eyes sparkled with pure joy, something James rarely saw during his rushed visits home. Beside Ethan was Mia, the 27-year-old housekeeper, kneeling on the floor, a cloth in hand, her face lit with a gentle smile. She moved slowly, as if syncing with Ethan's efforts. Her eyes brimmed with encouragement. James stood frozen, his breath caught in his chest. Ethan, the boy he'd always thought too frail to do anything but sit in an armchair with an iPad, was now attempting chores. The radiant smile on his face, like sunlight breaking through clouds, was something James couldn't forget. James stepped forward, his feet felt heavy, as if each step questioned the years gone by. He wanted to speak, but his throat was dry, managing only a soft, almost whispered question. Ethan startled. His cane nearly slipped, his green eyes wide with both joy and worry at seeing his dad. Mia quickly stood, wiping her hands on her worn green apron, her face flushed with embarrassment. She bowed her head. Her eyes flicked to the floor, as if fearing she'd done something wrong. James looked from Ethan to Mia, a mix of gratitude and nameless anger stirring within. He realized Mia, with her quiet dedication, had brought light to his son, something he, as a father, had failed to do. He tried to keep his voice calm, though a storm raged inside. Mia hesitated, her voice soft, explaining she was just playing with Ethan, making dusting a game to help him feel stronger. Ethan, still gripping his cane, chimed in with a proud voice. His eyes shone like stars. He said Mia taught him to stand longer, and today he stood for 6 minutes without a break. James was stunned, as if pulled into a world he didn't know existed. 6 minutes? He'd never thought Ethan could do that. He looked at Mia, waiting for more explanation. She said she used simple exercises learned from caring for her sister, who was partially paralyzed after an accident. With Ethan, she just wanted him to feel confident, to feel no different from other kids at school. James felt a wave of emotions surge: admiration for Mia's dedication, pain for realizing how distant he'd been from his son. He thought of rushed mornings leaving the house, late nights when Ethan was already asleep. He recalled Sarah's words last night about Ethan being shunned at school, the taunts he hid in his heart. Mia, with her modest salary and worn sneakers, had done what he, a millionaire, couldn't, given Ethan a reason to believe in himself. But he also wondered, had Mia overstepped her role as a housekeeper? Could he bridge the gaps he'd left in his son's life? All right, dear audience, pause for a moment to subscribe or comment where you're watching this from and what time it is. I'm thrilled to have you here with us. Night fell over the Palo Alto mansion. The desk lamp in James Carter's study cast a dim golden glow, illuminating his face where worry lines etched deeper than ever. He sat there, twirling a silver fountain pen, his eyes lost in space, as if searching for answers to the afternoon's scene. Ethan, his 5-year-old son with frail legs, stood in the living room, gripping a wooden cane, wiping dust with a smile James rarely saw. The image, like a slow-motion film, replayed in his mind, bringing joy laced with pain. He'd always thought he worked to give Ethan and Sarah a good life, but now he wondered if he truly knew his son. The scene of Ethan helping Mia dust, his eyes bright with pride, sent a wave of emotions through James. He thought of long office days, overnight business trips to New York or Tokyo, million-dollar deals he once saw as his purpose. But Ethan's smile, innocent and hopeful, was something money couldn't buy. He realized Mia, the 27-year-old housekeeper, had brought light to his son, something he, as a father, had neglected. James stood, leaving his study, and walked to the kitchen where Mia was wiping down the granite counter under the soft glow of pendant lights. Her worn green apron fluttered. Her hands moved with care and dedication, as if each motion held deep meaning. James stood at the threshold, clearing his throat to get her attention. Mia startled. Her cloth dropped to the counter. Her eyes flashed with worry, as if she feared she'd done wrong. James looked into her brown eyes, seeing sincerity, and went straight to the point. He asked about Ethan's sadness, the moments when the boy felt alone. Mia lowered her head. Her eyes drifted to the window, where darkness cloaked the garden. She said Ethan often sat alone in his room, his gaze lost out the window, as if waiting for someone. She explained he spoke of missing his parents, how Sarah was busy with charity events, and James was rarely home. Mia's words cut like a sharp knife into James's heart. He pictured Ethan, with his frail legs and sensitive heart, sitting in a room full of toys but lacking the warmth of care. James asked more about the exercises Mia taught Ethan. She hesitated, as if fearing she'd overstepped her role. She spoke of her sister, Lily, partially paralyzed after a car accident. Years of taking Lily to physical therapy taught Mia how to help someone regain strength, not just physically but mentally. Seeing Ethan, she recognized he needed the same, not just support, but belief he could surpass his limits. She turned exercises into games, making Ethan feel like a superhero each time he stood longer or took a step. James felt unexpected respect for Mia. She wasn't just a housekeeper with a modest salary and worn sneakers. She was the one who sparked hope in Ethan, helping him dream of running like his schoolmates, despite their cruel taunts. But part of him still wondered. Mia wasn't trained. If something happened to Ethan, he'd never forgive himself. He asked her about it, his voice tinged with unguarded doubt. Mia lowered her head. Her eyes showed clear worry, but she affirmed she was always careful, always putting Ethan's safety first. Before James could respond, a small sound came from the kitchen door. Ethan appeared, leaning on his cane, his green eyes wide with worry. He stepped forward, slow but determined, as if afraid of losing something precious. Looking at his dad, his eyes both pleading and firm, he said Mia was the only one who believed he could be strong, could overcome the school taunts. James knelt, eye level with his son, feeling the desperation and hope in Ethan's voice. He hugged him. His heart melted, but it was heavy, thinking of the invisible wounds Ethan endured. James stood. His eyes lingered on Ethan, then shifted to Mia, who stood quietly, her hands twisted together. He realized he not only needed to make up for lost time with his son, but also face the truth that he'd been a shadow in his family's life. Could he regain Ethan's and Sarah's trust and rediscover the man he'd lost in his chase for success? Night enveloped the Palo Alto mansion. The crystal chandelier's light flickered in the living room, reflecting off Sarah Carter's elegant black silk dress. She'd just returned from a charity gala. Her high heels clicked sharply on the wooden floor as she entered. James stood waiting in the room's center, his hands deep in his pockets, his eyes heavy after his talk with Mia and Ethan. The air in the vast room felt thick, as if an invisible storm loomed. Sarah paused, slipping off her shoes. Her eyes showed fatigue, but seeing James's tension, she froze, sensing something was coming. James took a deep breath, breaking the silence. He asked about Mia's exercises with Ethan. His voice held a strained restraint, as if holding back a wave of emotion. Sarah set her shoes down. Her eyes shifted from surprise to defensiveness. She admitted she knew about Mia's exercises, that she allowed it because Ethan seemed happier, more confident. But her words, though gentle, sparked James's frustration. He stepped closer. His voice rose, laced with unguarded hurt. He was Ethan's father. Why hadn't anyone told him what was happening with his son? The room's air grew stifling, as if the invisible wall between them crumbled, exposing deep cracks. Sarah turned away, her lips pressed tight, holding back a wave of emotion. She spoke of nights alone with Ethan, when he cried over schoolmates calling him the crippled kid. She told of times he asked for his dad, and she had to invent excuses to cover James's absence. Each word cut into James like a knife. He pictured Ethan, with his frail legs and sensitive heart, sitting in a classroom corner, enduring taunts he never knew about. James tried to argue, saying he worked for the family, for Ethan, for Sarah. But Sarah gave a bitter laugh, joyless. She looked into his eyes. Hers were red, glistening with tears. She confessed she was exhausted, tired of being mother, father, everything alone. She spoke of sleepless nights worrying for Ethan, questioning if she could go on. Her words hit James like a blow. He stood frozen, the floor seeming to shake beneath him. Sarah said she'd considered leaving, ending their marriage, because she couldn't bear the loneliness in their own home. Her confession pierced James's heart. The thought of losing Sarah and Ethan choked him. He recalled Ethan leaning on his cane, wiping the table, his eyes bright mentioning his superhero team with Mia. He'd missed too much, not just Ethan's moments, but Sarah's silent pain. He looked at her, the wife he once loved passionately, now standing before him with wounded eyes. He stepped forward, his voice hoarse, saying he wanted to change, to be there for Ethan, for her. But Sarah just looked at him, her eyes mixed hope and doubt. She said promises were easy, but she'd heard too many since Ethan's birth, since his cerebral palsy diagnosis. James felt his chest tighten. He thought of the taunts Ethan faced at school, the hidden wounds he kept inside. He thought of Mia, who gave Ethan belief when neither he nor Sarah could. He realized he wasn't just an absent father but a husband who'd left his wife drowning in loneliness. He sat on the sofa, his eyes drifted to a family photo on the bookshelf, the three of them, smiling brightly on a Lake Tahoe vacation when things were simpler. He wondered if he could reclaim what was lost, or if the distance had gone too far. Sarah turned, heading upstairs, leaving James in the silent room. He watched her back, feeling his heart constrict. He knew his promises, though sincere, were just a first step. Ethan still faced scornful looks at school. Sarah carried unhealed wounds. James stood. His eyes lingered on the window, where pale moonlight lit the garden. Could he prove he'd changed? Or would Sarah's talk of leaving become reality? Dawn's light shimmered through the oak trees, painting sparkling streaks on the lush green lawn in the Palo Alto mansion's backyard. James Carter stood by the wooden fence, holding a steaming coffee mug. His eyes followed Ethan, his 5-year-old son, training under Mia's guidance. He wore a simple gray t-shirt, a rare sight compared to his usual expensive suits. This morning, he'd canceled a crucial meeting with Silicon Valley investors, a decision that stunned his assistant over the phone. But after last night's argument with Sarah, when she confessed she'd considered leaving, her words, "I need actions, not words," burned into his mind, pushing him to the garden to witness his son's journey. Ethan lay on a blue mat. His small legs performed stretches with surprising focus. Mia, in a light sports jacket, knelt beside him. Her eyes glowed with encouragement, like a fire warming the chilly morning. Ethan, his brown hair messy, sweat beading on his forehead, tried lifting his left leg, a move that once made him cry in pain. James sat on the grass, feeling the earth's cool freshness, a sensation he'd forgotten since his days as a passionate young coder. He watched Ethan. The boy set down his green cane, trying to stand unaided. His legs trembled, but his eyes locked on an invisible point ahead, as if challenging fate. Mia counted time. Her voice was soft but thrilled, like a coach cheering an athlete at the finish line. Ethan wobbled. His frail legs shook, but he didn't give up. James held his breath. His heart pounded, as if he were the one standing there. When Mia called out 30 seconds, Ethan staggered, but she swiftly caught him, helping him stand steady. Ethan beamed. His face glowed like the sun, as if he'd conquered the world. James rushed over, kneeling to hug his son. Ethan's small body's warmth melted his heart. He'd never seen his son so resilient. never seen his eyes shine with such belief. Ethan looked up, his green eyes sparkled, eager to share his joy with his dad. He spoke of wanting to run, to stop the schoolmates' taunts. His words reminded James of what Sarah had shared, how Ethan cried over being called the crippled kid. He looked at Mia, standing quietly. Her gentle smile affirmed Ethan could surpass any limit. James felt deep admiration mixed with shame. Mia, with her worn sneakers and modest salary, had done what he, a millionaire, couldn't, given his son belief. After the session, as Ethan went inside for online classes, James held Mia back by the fence. He wanted to know how she made Ethan so confident. Mia shrugged, her smile shy, as if unaware of her impact. She said she saw each of Ethan's small steps as a victory, believing he could do more than others thought. James nodded, feeling both respect and guilt. He thought of Sarah, her painful confession, the cracks in their marriage. He knew healing his family required more than canceling a meeting. James looked at the garden, where sunlight spread, and an idea sparked. He wanted Mia to officially become Ethan's therapy companion, to support her studying physical therapy to help him professionally. Mia was stunned. Her eyes showed surprise and worry, as if the opportunity was too big for her dreams. James reassured her, saying he believed in her, that Ethan needed her. Mia nodded. Her eyes sparkled with hope, though tinged with fear of the new responsibility. James smiled. A wave of relief spread through him, but he knew this was just a first step. Sarah still doubted. Ethan still faced scorn at school. Could he keep his promise, or would the next challenges break everything? Dear audience, are you still here? Before continuing, comment 1 or I'm still here to keep listening. Golden orange afternoon sunlight streamed through James Carter's study window, illuminating the oak desk where he sat. His eyes lost in an old family photo, him, Sarah, and Ethan, beaming on a Lake Tahoe vacation. The image of Ethan this morning in the garden, standing 30 seconds without his cane, haunted him. The boy's radiant smile, like sunlight through clouds, warmed James but also stung with guilt. He'd canceled a critical meeting to witness that moment, an action unthinkable weeks ago. But Sarah's words last night, "I need actions, not words," burned like a smoldering fire, pushing him to do something greater to prove he wanted to heal their family. James stood, leaving his study, seeking Mia. She was in the kitchen, carefully cleaning crystal glasses. Her slender hands moved with her usual care. Her worn green apron fluttered. Her warm brown eyes radiated silent dedication. James paused at the threshold, clearing his throat to get her attention. Mia startled. The glass in her hand trembled. Her eyes flashed worry, as if she feared she'd done wrong. James smiled to ease her tension, then went straight to the point. He spoke of wanting Mia to officially become Ethan's therapy companion, not just a housekeeper. He wanted to fund her physical therapy studies, equipping her with professional knowledge to help Ethan better. Mia was stunned. Her hands dropped, her eyes widened, disbelieving what she heard. She stammered, her voice trembling, saying she had no degree, no training, and feared she wasn't capable. James stepped closer, his eyes sincere, as if passing her the confidence she gave Ethan. He said she'd worked miracles with his son, making him believe he could overcome school taunts, something no school could teach. James offered to cover tuition, books, travel, and a significant salary increase, seeing it as part of her new role. The kitchen air seemed to pause. Afternoon sunlight lit Mia's face, highlighting stray brown curls on her forehead. She blinked. Tears glistened in her eyes, as if wrestling between joy and fear. She said this was a dream she'd never dared imagine, but the new responsibility's pressure worried her. James reassured her, saying he trusted her, that Ethan needed her, that she deserved this chance to grow. Mia lowered her head. Her eyes drifted to her worn sneakers, as if seeking answers within herself. She thought of her sister, Lily, who inspired her to help Ethan. She thought of garden afternoons, when Ethan held her hand and called her Auntie Mia, his eyes bright with belief. She nodded. A radiant smile spread, though her eyes held worry about the challenges ahead. James felt a wave of relief spread through his chest, as if laying the first brick to rebuild his family. He returned to the living room. His eyes lingered on the family photo on the bookshelf. The argument with Sarah still gnawed her, talk of loneliness, of possibly leaving. James knew supporting Mia wasn't just for Ethan but a way to prove to Sarah he was trying. But he knew this was only a first step. Ethan still faced scornful looks at school, hidden taunts in his heart. Mia, in her new role, would face greater pressure. James needed to do more to regain Sarah's trust. As the sunset faded, James heard Ethan's small footsteps from the stairs. The boy appeared, leaning on his cane, his eyes lit up seeing his dad. James knelt, hugging his son, feeling his small body's warmth. Ethan looked up, his eyes sparkled, asking if his dad would stay to watch him train tomorrow. James nodded, his heart warmed but heavy. He thought of Ethan's challenges, the invisible wounds from schoolmates. Could he and Mia help Ethan overcome the wall of prejudice? Or would those challenges be too great for the family? Fog blanketed the Palo Alto mansion's backyard, casting a misty glow over the lawn, as if the world held its breath for a miracle. James Carter stood by the dining room window. His eyes followed Ethan, his 5-year-old son, taking slow, steady steps on the stone path, his frail legs resolute. Mia, in a light green sports jacket, walked beside him, her hands ready to catch him if needed. Each of Ethan's steps was a small victory, but to James, they were flames igniting hope in his heart. He'd canceled another morning meeting, determined to be present, not just to keep his promise to Sarah, but to rediscover himself the father Ethan needed. The peaceful morning shattered when James's phone buzzed, showing Daniel Reed, a notorious Silicon Valley rival. Daniel's smug voice cut through, no preamble, like a sharp knife. He'd heard of Mia's talent with Ethan and now wanted to poach her to work for his niece, a child with a movement disorder. His offer was a ticking bomb, double the salary, a private car, full family health insurance, and a small apartment near San Francisco. James felt heat rush to his face, his chest tightened. Mia wasn't a commodity to be bought, but he knew for a 27-year-old struggling to support her mother and sister, this was a life-changing opportunity. James stepped into the garden, where Ethan had just finished his session, his face flushed with effort, his eyes bright with joy. Mia patted Ethan's shoulder. Her eyes glowed with pride as he ran 10 steps in a row, a milestone unthinkable months ago. James stood back, realizing Mia didn't just help Ethan physically but inspired him to face school's cruel taunts. He couldn't lose her, not just for Ethan but for his family, slowly healing through her presence. That afternoon, James called Mia to his study. Golden-orange sunlight lit her face, highlighting stray brown curls on her forehead. He told her about Daniel's offer, not hiding its gravity. Mia was stunned, her hands twisted together, her eyes showed a struggle. She didn't hide the offer's appeal. The money could clear her mother's medical debts, give her sister Lily a better life. But her eyes drifted to the window, where Ethan rolled a ball on the lawn, his smile radiant as the Sunday. She shook her head, her eyes firm, saying she couldn't leave Ethan, couldn't abandon him when he needed her most. James felt relief mixed with respect. He acted before she could reconsider. He offered to match Daniel's salary, plus family health insurance and an annual bonus. Mia was stunned. Tears glistened in her eyes, but a radiant smile spread. She chose to stay, not just for money but for her deep bond with Ethan, her belief she could help him surpass school's prejudices and become his strongest self. In the garden, Ethan hit a stunning milestone. With Mia's guidance, he ran 15 steps in a row. His frail but resilient legs hit the ground in a clumsy but hopeful rhythm. James and Sarah, just back from a charity event, rushed to hug their son. Sarah cried, her arms tight around Ethan. Her eyes sparkled with hope that their family could heal. James looked at his wife, feeling the moment's fragility, knowing their journey wasn't over. Ethan still faced scornful looks at school, hidden taunts in his heart. Mia, in her new role, would face greater pressure as his official therapy companion. James looked at the garden, where the sunset faded, wondering if Ethan's steps today could help him overcome bigger challenges, or if the world's prejudices would be a wall too high for their family to conquer. Night fell over the Palo Alto Elementary School auditorium. Stage lights blazed on the deep red curtain, where hundreds of spectators awaited the annual talent show. James Carter sat in the front row, gripping Sarah's hand, his eyes locked on the stage, where Ethan, his 5-year-old son, prepared to appear. The auditorium buzzed with applause, laughter, and excited whispers. But to James, all sounds faded. Only his pounding heartbeat remained. Ethan had chosen to perform to prove he wasn't less than his peers. Despite their cruel school taunts, James felt tension mixed with pride, knowing this moment wasn't just Ethan's but their family's. Ethan stepped onto the stage, without his familiar wooden cane. His frail but resolute legs touched the polished wooden floor. The crowd hushed, eyes fixed on the small boy with messy brown hair. James felt his chest tighten, recalling days when Ethan could only sit in an armchair, his eyes lost from schoolmates' taunts. But now, Ethan stood tall. His green eyes shone like stars, as if challenging the world. He began, his voice small but firm, sharing his journey, how Mia, whom he called Auntie Mia, helped him believe he could do anything. James glanced at Sarah, seeing tears glisten on her cheeks. He gripped her hand tighter, feeling the moment's fragility. These past weeks, they'd supported Ethan together, from garden sessions to rehearsals for this show. Mia, as his therapy companion, guided Ethan step by step, not just physically but mentally, helping him overcome school's invisible wounds. James thought of his argument with Sarah, her painful confession of considering leaving. But now, Sarah's eyes, though still doubtful, sparkled with hope that their family could heal. On stage, Ethan began his performance. He ran a short distance, just 15 steps, but each was a victory, a declaration he wasn't the crippled kid his peers called him. The crowd erupted in applause, cheers echoed, as if the auditorium joined Ethan's joy.
Thank you.
James felt hot tears roll down his cheeks, a sensation new to his work-filled years. He saw Mia at the stage's wing. Her eyes glowed with pride, her hands twisted together as if holding back emotion. Ethan ended by calling Mia to the stage. He held her hand, his eyes blazed, saying she taught him every small step was a win. James and Sarah were invited up. As James stepped onto the stage, he felt hundreds of eyes, but none mattered more than Ethan's. He knelt, hugging his son, his heart melted. Sarah stood beside them, tears streaming, but her smile was one James hadn't seen in years. James took the mic, his voice choked but firm. He said Mia wasn't just a housekeeper but family, the one who saved his son and their family from distance. He announced his plan to fund Mia's therapy center for disabled children, with her as director. Mia froze, tears spilled, but her radiant smile lit the stage like sunlight. The crowd roared with applause, as if witnessing a miracle's birth. Ethan hugged Mia, then his parents, and in that moment, James felt their family truly reunited. As the stage lights dimmed, James looked at the audience, where strangers smiled and clapped. He thought of Ethan's journey, from a lonely boy shunned by peers to a symbol of resilience. He thought of Mia, who made Ethan's dreams real, and Sarah, who gave him a chance to atone. Mia's therapy center, though just an idea, was a flame of hope, not just for Ethan but for dozens of other children. But James knew the journey wasn't over. Ethan would face new challenges. Their family needed time to heal. Could Mia's center change more lives, or was this just the start of a greater journey? 3 years later, Mia's Hope Therapy Center stood in Palo Alto, a beacon for disabled children and their families. Ethan, now 8, was its symbol, running steady steps in the playground. His green eyes sparkled with belief. James and Sarah learned family wasn't just blood but those who sacrificed for each other. Mia, from a humble housekeeper, became a hero, proving love and dedication could change the world. This story reminds us that the smallest moments, a smile, a step can spark great change. But Ethan's journey isn't over. Will he keep inspiring, or will new challenges arise? Do you see yourself in James, Sarah, Ethan, or Mia's journey? Does this story touch your heart?
Yes.
Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. I'm thrilled you're here with us. Like, subscribe, and share this story with family and friends in the USA to spread hope. If you want to know what's next about Mia's center, the new children helped leave a comment today.